It's a constant battle. Do I or don't I? And every once in a while I think about cornrows.
You should. Oh, definitely you.
You're gonna go big,
Yes.
right?
Be like one of the brothers. Too lazy.
And Bill, you got yours.
I got one.
Would you like an
Sure.
agenda?
Like she wants to.
Dave? Okay. And I got those.
They don't understand how it can go.
But those.
Tell us when you push record.
You know, yeah, to actually see them.
Did you?
I want to look at them. I did print one of each off.
Well, the one, you need a plotter for that. Or something to do that the right way.
No.
Yeah. So, I did.
Wants to print three.
Or title.
Town should quit furnishing up computers and furnish us with printer.
Plotter. There you go.
And then I also added.
There's. It is now 3:00, according to the inside clock, which helps us not be late. We'll call the meeting to order. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. You've all had an opportunity to review the minutes of the March 11th committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any changes? Amendments? Additions or corrections? Not the questions on the motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. The motion is carried. Collect public comment unless somebody's in disguise. We don't have the public. So we'll move on to payment approval reports.
Land information total was 5,725. It included AutoCAD, some conference hotels, Lawrence remonumentation, and conference registrations. And for zoning, the total was 8607, and that was for a public hearing publication and some office supplies.
What was the software,
What was the first thing in the report?
land info?
I think it was an AutoCAD.
Oh, okay. Is that a yearly fee or is that a?
Yeah, it's a annual software.
I thought, but I wasn't sure. So you've heard the payment approval reports as they're circulating for signatures. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Second on the motion to approve payment approval report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. The motion is carried. And we got monthly reports. John is on. We're ready for you, John.
Hello, everybody.
Volume here.
Pardon?
Nick has got up the volume here.
How's that?
Oh, boy. Clean the wax out of my ears. Go
Never
ahead.
happy. Never happy.
Okay, perfect. Things going well. First map updates are going quite well. We get them, like I said before, when Rebecca sends them to us right away. So that process has been working out very well. We are also doing remapping of areas that we have all of the section corner information in with GPS. We actually go in and we draw in new hydro lines from the 2024 aerials, bringing in road center lines that we've GPSed, going in all the points, and then redrawing the parcels with whatever information we have available. Started down in the town of Rusk. It's always been kind of a problem area because of all the water down there. And things are progressing along. It's going to take a bit, but I think once we get it all said and done, the accuracy of it is going to be much, much better than what we currently have. Fire numbers, we did 4 this month. So when we did get our DOA grant for our base budget, so it's I believe it was $78,000. So we put that in the account, and hopefully we'll be able to do a little work with that this year. That's about it.
Sometimes we have issues with the fire numbers. Do we still have some of those out there? They're just not very accurate.
That has been an ongoing battle. Pardon? Oh, that's been an ongoing battle since we took it over, trying to find the old ones and fix them and fit them into certain areas where it's a very difficult process. And then working with that to try and get it to match up with our MSAG and the alley feed that we get from CenturyLink. And then we have to tie that into the 911 database and all the points that we have in there that we have to adjust to where the driveway hits the road. And it's been a task, I will say that.
I was using my GPS to locate somebody down in the town of Big Bend sometime back. And when I got there, I knew approximately where it was at. They said, your destination is on the left. And that was a pasture. And the house I was looking for was on the right. Across the
Well,
road.
we've reached out to different companies because a lot of times UPS, FedEx, and so forth, we don't know where they're pulling their data from. It doesn't match necessarily anything that we have. And we provide all that information once a year to the state into a central repository. And any of these companies can go there and get it for free. And it's much, much more accurate than wherever they're getting it from. But it's, again, we've tried to reach out to these companies to provide them that information, and trying to reach a human being on any of those companies is a task.
Yeah, this is probably Google Maps. So, well, anyway.
Yeah.
So anybody have any questions for John? If not, thanks, John. Appreciate your report. And we'll move on to the treasurer.
Mary's next.
Register deeds.
Well, as soon as I get my,
You can pass me, that's fine.
as soon as I get my agenda back up here, we'll go to the agenda where it's, as it's written. So we'll go to the register of deeds. Sorry about that. Thanks, Mary.
That's okay. We had 277 recordings in March. That's about 48 documents more than what we had in February. We only issued 246 vital records last month. And we added 3 new veterans to our honor rewards program. And then the only other thing I have to say is Scott from Fiddler did come and do the presentation on the Act 235. And I thought he is a good, valuable presentation for those that were here. So,
I was sorry to miss that, but I had another meeting that day.
yeah. Yeah, that's all I have.
So anybody have any questions for Mary?
And that April 1st thing went relatively okay. 235.
Yeah, I think that's further down on the agenda to discuss more in detail, but
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty ready. Hopefully we don't get somebody that wants to
yeah, you should
have their records shielded.
discourage that with prejudice.
Yeah. I've heard
I
from
don't know what they're
other,
getting into.
I've heard from other counties, they're slowly trickling in. So, and Washburn County had one enter the program and they wanted a CSM shielded because that has the outline of their property. So, and I don't know what that's gonna do.
That's not personal identifying us.
That's what I said.
Have anything personal on it.
I said that same thing and the judicial officer said, I don't care. It has the boundaries of my property. I want it shielded. I don't know. I mean, can we say, no, you can't have that document? I mean, it's all like nobody has anything written down.
But doesn't the bill define the parameters of what gets redacted or covered, like name, address? I mean, we still have to have that certified survey map information, but,
Right.
you know, Nick and I talked about it in-house, and, you know, if we have a name on a particular document, you know, we can have something that shields that, but the information from state statute 236 requires that information to be available to the public for survey information. And we don't care about the name who owns it, but that survey information needs to be made available.
Right.
So, and like I said, if 235 should lay out the parameters of it.
And I agree with you 100%, John. That's just what that register was doing, and that judicial officer is requesting that document be shielded. So at what point do we have to say, no, you can't do that? You know, I mean, it has her name or the judicial officer's name on the document. Yes, we can shield the name from the document, but I don't know. That's,
Well, if the
If
database
they
doesn't,
specifically ask you, you kind of almost have to.
if the
Exactly.
database doesn't tie the name to the CSM,
it does though.
but they, I mean,
In our office, we record that as that person requested that CSM be recorded. So it ties their name to that property and
well, that makes it personally identifiable information.
yeah,
So either they have to change the system where you can redact the name because they, you know,
yep. And we have the option to do that, to redact names off there. We just wouldn't be able to index it to, you know, that individual landowner's name either at that point. And it's specifically in the Register of Deeds office, they have to bring in document numbers for our office. that they want redacted. We don't just redact their names.
But we haven't had anyone from Russ County,
No, we haven't. Thank God.
you know, we
Yeah.
probably need to be very careful about how we discuss this issue in a public meeting. Because we might say something that would make that local judicial officers, you know, personal information obvious who we're talking about. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. Another 19.85 exception they'll have to create, requiring a closed session. All right. Anyone have any other questions for Mary? Moving along, then, thank you, Mary. Treasurer's report, Missy?
So February, I wasn't here. We had 4 plat books sold in February, 1 in March. So our year-to-date for plat books is 17. And we have 1 person since the February meeting has paid their 2021 taxes. So we're down to 26 people that are in the process of, in the tax deed process. So that information's been sent to Rich. So I'm waiting for Rich. And then the new penalties that we implemented. So in February, we collected $579.12 in penalties, that 0.5% penalty that we added. And March, it was $1187.37. More income on the money that people owe us.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Missy? Send her report. How many plat books?
17 so far this year.
Oh, gotta get that number up.
That'll save us.
Maybe the committee members should all buy a plat book, just to. Okay, moving along. Thanks again, Ms. Zoning, Yvonne.
All right, so land use permits this year, we're at 79 at the date. Last year we were at 67. And on sanitary permits this year, we are at 9, and last year we were at 23. Yeah, that's pretty common. It's very early. I don't know how we were at 23 last year because typically with the road bans and the frost, they're not usually applying for permits, but to date, 355 camper renewals have been received. Last year at this time, it was 306. Enforcement, I issued 4 citations. 2 went to 1 property for a salvage yard issue. 1 went to the owner, 1 went to the operator. And then 2 went for building without a permit. And these are 2 that, like, for 3 years, I've been trying to get them. So I have not heard anything from any of the recipients of the citations. There was court today on a citation that I issued out in November for a status update, and it just got pushed off to a court trial, which will be, the date will be determined later. Colleen sent out 8 enforcement letters. 5 issues have been brought into compliance. That is not necessarily the same 5 of the 8, but in her enforcement spreadsheet, 8 went out and 5 got resolved. And we attended WCCA conference March 19th through the 21st.
You mentioned a salvage yard citation. What kind of citation do you issue them?
Just a regular citation, a county citation. So where they're at, they're in a planned unit development zoning area, and salvage yards are prohibited in that. And they've been having it, and I think that's been about 2.5 years we've been dealing with that, and it continues to get worse. Sort of.
Can you shut them down?
I can write a citation.
Oh,
Where's that at?
It's on Bell School Road. Go on Highway 8, you can't.
You can't miss it, really. If you
Turn north. That's it.
Just look.
So
Wonder if there's anything that.
Doesn't seem to make a lot of
it's
sense.
not one that's got a name or advertising. It's just.
a collection.
They're scrapping and they're doing that, but they're not doing it like under a business name or.
Oh, okay.
side job.
They couldn't even have a conditional use permit
Correct.
in that.
It's prohibited in that district.
Yeah.
Specifically listed as a prohibited activity.
So, gosh, you would think that would be kind of open and closed.
I would think you'd just go out there with the sheriff and shut it down.
We don't have that kind of authority.
I tried that in the town of Dewey before with the DNR. Would help us out a bit. Salvage yard, or it's turning into one, you know, with a couple dozen young cars and creeping out to the road, and
Yeah.
DNR won't do anything about it either.
You know, the county's got limited resources to do anything about, it, especially if,
Yeah, towns have a little more power, but it's a very lengthy process and very expensive, so typically don't try to do that, but
yeah, there's a couple notorious ones in the county where somebody went out there and they drove them off with a shotgun, so. Sir.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of gumption just to give them a citation, right?
well, that's the worst part of my job. That's the part
Yeah, nobody
I-
knows that.
I try every avenue before we get to that point.
Okay, anything else? Anybody have any questions? If not, thanks again. Nick? What do you got for us?
Just a couple of things. One is we're coming down the home stretch on rewriting the land and water management plan. The final draft is done. The committee this morning approved the final draft. And it incorporates comments from the advisory committee as well as just about every division within DNR, it seems like. So now at this point, we'll have our public hearing on the 24th. And then I'll go to the Land and Water Board on June 3rd to present and get their final word, their final feedback. So it's nice to have it done. And it's a good process because it basically lays out resource management for the next 10 years for land and water. Other than that, we're kind of gearing up for the season. John's working on a design for a stream crossing. And we're looking at a wetland issue near Bruce right now. We have a wetland restoration in the works as well, and a demonstration site for some stream bank work on Devil's Creek coming up. I'm gonna
Don't
get
kill
out.
the trout.
What's that?
Don't kill the trout.
Well, we're trying to bring him back.
Oh, bring it back is good. Bring it back is very
We're
good.
trying to restore the lower part of Devil's Creek.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're working in the lower
By the
half.
highway there?
This site is right off where it crosses O,
Okay.
that first crossing on
Yeah,
O.
that needs some work.
There's a lot of the vegetation overhang and whatever.
Well, there's some pretty bad stream bank erosion
Yeah.
right through there. So we're gonna do, on that site, we've got 3 different stabilization techniques we're gonna try there. It's a good spot because it's right by the road. So we can use that as a demonstration site to bring other folks to and say, hey, look, we did these types of conservation practices. This is how they work. This is what they look like when they're done. And hope that spurs other folks to do that same kind of thing. We do have cost share money available to do that. Other than that, I'm trying to get out in the field. Going out here, we got a little window with no leaves on the trees where I can get out and do some flying. So I'm going to try and do that tomorrow. Hopefully it doesn't rain or. And the very salvage yard you were talking about that is the problem out there. Someone came after somebody with a shotgun. I actually went out and took water samples over the winter, both near site and up gradient. And I'm in the process of compiling all that and send that to DNR. DNR will be the final one to decide whether or not they want to go in and try and do something more there, but something needs to be done. There is definitely some elevated metals, contaminants. have to assume are coming from the site, so. In the process of writing all that up, and I'll get that all to DNR, and then it's in their hands at that point.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough lesson to learn, but
Yeah. Anything else?
that's it.
Anybody have any questions? If not, thanks, Nick. Have a handful of CSMs to review.
Yes, we do. All right, the first one is a 3-lot map in the town of Rusk for Mark Kennedy. One of the lots is close to 30 acres, and then he's creating, so he took like 2 parcels and he's making 3 parcels out of it. One's getting much larger and then 2 are a little bit smaller. So lot 1 will be 4 acres and lot 2 will be right at 1 acre. It's in the town of Rusk and it's in an unzoned area. So the 100-foot lot width is the minimum lot width. So it meets all the standards and I would recommend approval.
So what's this
This is the-
rectangle down in the
yeah,
bottom?
that's a previously divided piece there.
Okay.
So it's not part of
okay.
this division. But that same divider divided that a few years back.
Sometimes that'll have the CSM number.
Yeah, this one, they just put the document number in,
Yeah.
but
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve as recommended. Any other questions or comments? If not, questions on the motion to approve the CSM? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion's carried.
all right, then we got a 1 lot in the town of Big Bend for Bonnie Barley. They're dividing off the buildings from the farmland and the buildings are being sold. And it's almost a 9-acre piece. It's also in an unzoned area, so the 100-foot minimum lot width is more than being met there, and I would recommend approval.
Don't move.
A second.
That off of,
Buena Vista,
oh, okay, yeah, never mind.
Hutchison's right up here.
Yeah, oh, that's what that was.
Yep.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions or comments, questions on the motion to approve the CSM, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Carried.
The last one is a 1 lot map in the town of Marshall for Jerome Metesky. Same similar situation here where they're selling off all the farmland. And then that left this remnant parcel where that little odd shape is. So then they had to include that with the parcel to the north. That wasn't a landlocked parcel in there. And he owns all that up there too. So it's zoned ag, so it has a 1 acre minimum. They're at 7 acres, so there's no issue there. And again, like I said, it's dividing the buildings from farmland, which is a very common thing we're seeing. And I would recommend approval.
And that's that one.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Here we have a motion and a second to approve. Any additional comment or questions? Not the questions on the motion to approve the CSMs. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion is carried. So there's a question. Maybe Mary can look into this one. So let's suppose we have 4 CSMs on our agenda, and one of them is from a judicial officer who's requested that they be shielded. And somebody's looking at the agenda and saying, how come 3 of them have somebody's name on them and 1 of them doesn't?
Well, so they can't be shielded until after they're recorded.
Well,
It's in my office.
that's even worse.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
I don't know what you guys would do in your office in that situation.
Given the severity of the penalty, I would shield it. I mean,
I would too.
No, the question is, that, you know, maybe our policy should be not to include the name. I mean, I don't know.
On any CSM.
Huh? Yeah.
On any CSM that's reviewed in this.
Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense or some requirement. I mean,
I don't think it's a requirement. It's just how we've always done it. I
Yeah,
don't think it
right.
has to be.
Because the name is not a protected field though. Is it? Like, I thought it was address.
The legal description of the property would be on the map.
No, it's home address, home or personal phone number, personal email address, social security numbers, bank account numbers, license plate, identification of children, date of birth and marital status. Name is not a protected field. You just can't get the name with the address so you can find one or the other. Or one without the other, you know what I mean?
We're not gonna have any of those, so.
Yeah, we,
Except if the name is there, then I can look at the CSM and figure out where it is.
It is, right. Yeah,
So I got a question regarding all of this. Minnesota doesn't even know about this.
well, they know.
Well, but they haven't adopted anything, because I have a friend of mine who deals in the banking, you know, legal descriptions, all of that. I said, have you heard of Daniels Lodge? She's like, huh?
I
So
think
here,
it's got to say that
It's in
they
the
are
legislature right now.
they're in the very big steps right now.
yes, because the rest of the state doesn't know anything about it. My question is, at this point, we do, and we have a judge that doesn't, but they have property in Minnesota. At this point of the game, I mean, where if they have, you know, land anywhere, it's
can't.
open.
We can't shield that information.
Well, right
Yeah.
here, but I'm just saying, I mean, so they're trying, you know, it's like they have the cart before the horse here. They have no idea. They haven't,
Right.
there's so many questions and there's no answers. When we went to conference, they had this brought up. Everybody's asking these, nobody has the answers to these questions, none.
And that's
Any of it.
some of the problems that we're having. Like
Mhm.
there's so many questions and nobody has the answers.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that
We need this by
Minnesota
April
do that.
1st, but boy, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Aren't you? Aren't you?
Well, I guess,
Come out of Madison that way without answers.
I mean,
I guess the question though is that
Dumbfounded.
just because Wisconsin is customarily
guinea pig?
years ahead of everybody else, we should be penalized.
We're progressive.
It's just, there's so many questions regarding.
Yeah. You and me both.
Make it up as you go along.
Yeah, but then it's a felony if you, I mean, make it up.
There's a good faith exemption.
Oh, well, that's
So
good.
if you didn't maliciously,
That's what we just had the conversation. We said
Yeah.
the same thing at the conference. I didn't mean to.
Right.
You know, okay.
Not that somebody gave you $5,000 and,
Yeah,
Table.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's gonna happen.
I think some of us would, I would have a hard time proving I'm not malicious. That's.
But that's just a general life statement.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, well, it's something to think about. Of course, maybe the prudent judicial officer will purchase some land in another state that doesn't have us yet. And then the bad people will be waiting for them to visit that land in the other state. And they'll leave.
You kept going to the cabin, but that's not hid.
Right.
Well, we're just gonna sit here and wait.
All right. Back to serious business. If I can get the agenda to come back up.
Here, back to you're down to what we're just talking
Yeah,
about.
okay, right. Yes, so we're talking about it.
I'll share with you, then you can go on to other.
Discussion and possible action. Is there any other updates or anything that we need to know? So far?
Well, your drafts were included with your packet.
You did include my draft? Okay, I did actually make some changes to mine. Just to include if the request includes information to be redacted on any vital record document, that record would be removed from my public index and put into a classified book stored in a locked cabinet away from public view or, you know. And then I also added information if I received a release, that we would store that release and then issue a corresponding code to the authorized person. Cause for my system, they have to have a 10-digit code or something like that to access those records. That's the only things that I added in mine that would not be included in the draft that you guys have there.
Do you shield them from the assessor?
The treasurer's office deals with
That's
the
my
assessors.
Long time.
Everybody.
So
needs
that would
to
be
sign
Missy's.
The agreement.
Mhm.
That's the next part.
Yep.
Then if they do something that they need that undone, it's going to be.
Yeah, so when the judicial officer retires, doesn't get reelected,
Right.
you gotta undo all
You
this.
gotta undo it all.
No, it's good for 10 years.
It's for 10 years though.
10 years or
Yeah,
death.
that's right.
10 years or death.
But if something
So then it automatic,
like
if they don't.
event happens
renew,
before 10 years,
then it just reverts back to.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
But people have to undo everything.
I was gonna say,
they've
but
done.
Yeah.
we'll have to go back and,
Yeah.
and try to remember what needs to be
So,
done.
like,
Taking
we're gonna
knots out of
have
it,
a
but
folder
done
for
there
every
Time you just
person that we
get it out.
do and so that we can pull up that folder, undo all of this, you know?
It's a lot of work and a lot of mess, but you can understand why.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. I get the reasoning
Probably has to
behind
be
The
it.
reason.
So is this something we have to adopt as a committee or recommend to the board?
So
No,
the resolution stated that you guys were okay with the county policy and then each department was supposed to come up with their policy based off of the county
Okay.
policy and run it through myself and Rich.
Okay.
And I just wanted a note on that. The first request that we get, everyone's policies are likely gonna change because we're gonna go through the process and be like, okay, that didn't work, that didn't work.
Yep.
So, mhm.
So what I had included is what we came up with just for Land Conservation and Development Department.
So it's a work in
It's
progress.
specific to us. It's a work in progress. At this point, it's sort of just more informational for you guys just to know that, you know, hey, this is what we came up with so far. This is what we're gonna try. It's, I don't know, I think the policy that I have here is a little above and beyond, I think, what might be required under the act. But I would rather err on the side of caution than
Mhm.
not redact something and have it get out. So in the policy that I have here, we are looking at not only the electronic version of documents, but the paper ones as well, and making a note in the file that this document contains shielded information. You cannot duplicate it or send it out anywhere, even though it's a paper copy, which isn't part of this act. If I understand it right,
Correct.
things that are on paper, hard copy, are not covered under Act 235. But there would still be the opportunity for somebody to accidentally make a copy of a contract and, you know, send it to somebody that they shouldn't. So
Would you segregate those or keep them?
You almost have to.
Would you like I have a red file?
yeah, what we're gonna have, what I have in at least this draft is in the hard copy files we have, we'll put a pink cover sheet on top of that document, basically saying this document contains shielded information. Do not duplicate, copy, distribute, you know, whatever that
Yeah.
message is. So it'll be in the file like that.
Yeah.
Electronic versions of those, because like I have on my local computer, I have project folders, and for every project, I have a folder for those individuals by contract number. It's got the electronic version of the contract scanned. Those we're going to indicate and redact the name and address or any of that personal identifiable information from that electronic copy that's stored locally. The original document will go onto a secure folder that only the intake person has access to. So we still retain the original scanned document that has all the information on it. Locally, we'll only have the electronic version with the name, with the identifiable information redacted.
So,
That's the best I could come up with at this point to try and cover all the bases.
so if you have a copy and you're sort of identifying it, do we then also need to have some record that anyone who has access to that file is aware of the fact that they can't?
I would
Yeah.
hope that the cover
Use it.
sheet on the top of that would be enough. That anybody who comes to that office and looks at that or potentially has access to it, sees that cover sheet that's on it and says, this is shielded
But
information.
that would only be county employees, right?
Right, yes.
Those are the only
That
people that
means-
get to those paper copies.
But that means the county has a level of liability if they don't. If somebody does.
Right, and I, you know,
So,
That would revert back to
Regardless.
her old harmless.
If they don't take it off electronically, you're just as liable as if they hand it out. And actually, the paper's not part of that law, so. I mean, the county's gonna have liability regardless, so. You mess up,
and thankfully, I think, you know, at least for us, for this department, internally, we're the only people that access those paper copies. It's not something that we're handing out or making copies of for anybody else. And
of course, the downside of that is that if it does get out, they know who
We
did
can
it.
narrow it down, yeah.
the nice thing on the web mapping side, the Beacon site, the web map, they have the ability to shield information already built into the site. So it's pretty simple on that side electronically to go in and, you know, once we figure out, okay, it's these 3 parcel numbers, we basically go in and we mark the checkbox by those 3 parcels, and it basically creates a black hole in the map. The lines show up, but there's nothing available, no information. You click on it, it says no information available. The only way to access the permits online is through that Beacon site, through the parcel map. Those aren't accessible either at that point, so it doesn't make the connection to the permits. You can't search on their name, you know, the name doesn't show up in the search, the parcel number doesn't show up in the search, and it just disappears from the map. So from that side, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. You just check those parcels and we're done there.
What's the,
Did they know this was coming down the pipeline when they?
I don't know if they knew specifically it was coming down the pipeline for Wisconsin, but they deal with other states where this
Sure.
is already in place, so they knew that
Okay.
it was a requirement.
Yeah,
And so it's just kind of default built into their site.
good, nice.
no foolproof
There isn't.
thing here,
No.
because if, you know, somebody knows a general location, they have to do is look at the map, look for the black hole.
Right. It's like, gee,
Yeah.
that's weird. Why is
Yeah.
this one?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Doing the best we can, I guess. So is there anything else you want to add to that?
I don't think so.
Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to out of county travel. Summer conference in Delavan.
Yeah, so I actually have 2. So the WRDA conference, that's in June. But our deadline to reserve is May 1st, so I thought I should probably get that in this month. There's a copy of the agenda. I don't know if that was attached or not.
Yeah.
Does it have any questions? on that one.
yeah, they got the agenda.
And then the second one I have that I actually forgot about because is it really already April? I flipped the calendar and I have the Fiddler annual symposium in Iowa, May 19th through the 21st. So I thought, oh, I gotta get that into finance next month, so.
Well, that one should be easy to get through because no one goes to Iowa
Yeah.
to have any fun.
It's,
So,
it's,
yeah.
there's no, direct, quick route there. It's a 6-hour drive to get there, but it's on country view driving and whatever to Iowa.
Well, there's some corn.
Yep.
There's some more corn.
Well, it's northern Iowa, so it's just, yeah.
Midway, it
They
won't
have a
be
couple of
very-
trees.
There's a driftless portion in northern Ireland.
There's a what?
Northern Iowa that has some banging trout streams.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
I go through there a lot. Okay,
You know why the Mississippi runs south, don't you? I mean, I know we're being recorded, but Iowa sucks.
Oh.
mercy, mercy.
That'll end up in the paper
Anyone here from Iowa?
Or in the minutes.
or in the minutes.
Meeting your heritage, yeah. Oh, okay. So we need a motion to approve the out-of-county travel as requested
I'll move.
for the Register of Deeds.
I'll move.
Second, anybody have any questions? And I guess this finance committee has to approve out-of-state.
Yes, and I actually just got on that one, I think it happened the same as last year. I just put for hotel up to 300 because that's what we did last year. Because I don't have, there's a,
You haven't registered yet, yeah,
right, so.
that's not a problem. So if there's no further question, then the question is on the motion to approve out-of-county travel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Carried. There isn't any other.
Inside, right?
Yeah, I just need signatures from you guys on those, please.
Okay, fiscal impact of transfer fee legislation.
So I think this is gonna be a good thing for the county and it's more or less impacting our grants and stuff, that John deals with, but so they're proposing to change the transfer fee from $3 per thousand to $2 per thousand. However, they are increasing, instead of us retaining 20% of the transfer fees, we will be retaining 50% of those transfer fees.
Or didn't we?
We did a resolution a few years ago that it was supposed to be 50-50 split, but they were trying to do the 3-year tier program.
That was kind of a,
Yeah,
ended
and
up it wasn't.
right, and so they scratched that whole thing and Ashley, you kind of got it summarized or broke down really well.
Oh, okay. So as Mary said, the fee would lower down to 20 cents per hundred or $2 per thousand. Half would stay with the county, 30% would go to the state's general fund, and then 20% would go into a special fund for land information. And then for the land information grants, the bill is proposing that the minimum grant that the counties would get would increase from 100,000 to 175,000. Boost the training grant from 1,000 to 5,000, and then make sure that 46% of the money going into land information fund each year is given back to the counties as grants that are based on how much the county collected. So although they're lowering the fee, we think that this will end up being a good thing for us, especially here in Rusk County, because we'll get more in our.
Basically means that state is lowering their take. Which
Correct.
scares me because they don't do that.
I know.
Oh, very often.
And I don't know, John, if you had anything to add?
Well, like Ashley pointed out, the current formula as it is, with our base budget grant, is what we don't make up to $100,000 is what we get back on our grant. So theoretically, if we made $40,000 on our retained fees, we would get $60,000 on our grant. They're looking at increasing that up to $175,000. and like Mary and I were talking earlier, the state is the one looking to lose out on this because, looking at tables that were provided to us, as it stands right now with the current law, the state brings in $107 million in on this. They're looking at losing $80 million, and it's gonna be redistributed as, like they said, the 20%, 30%, and 50%. The county as a whole is going to make out quite well. I don't know that the state is really gonna be, oh, yay, let's do this. But we hope it is. However, it will also, with bringing up that base budget dollar amount, it will allow other counties to be redistributed monies to, because it increases that threshold. So now they can make more money as well, which I don't know that that pot is going to distribute as effectively as they think it's going to, but just looking at the numbers that we had from WLIA, I would say it's going to, out of the 72 counties, you're probably looking at another 15 that are going to be involved with this. So it's definitely going to be a benefit. How much, I don't think we know yet. That's the only point I guess I was going to really make.
Mhm.
So we might retain more of the fee, but maybe not get as much of the grant monies back, if that.
No, our portion will definitely be increased, and with the strategic initiative grant also being jacked up, like I said, I think no matter what, Russ County is going to be in a much better position. We're gonna have more money coming in. My only question is, are these other counties that are still not going to receive anything from these dollar amounts? Are they gonna wanna be on board with this? I know at the WLIA, it was a concern. They were really, really pushing for the bigger counties to say, hey, please, let's reach out and let's help these smaller counties to get where we're at. Yeah, I like I said, I don't know. There's I think a handful of variables here that we don't necessarily know yet. Once the bill, I think, gets the final approval and looked at, it's going to be a little bit. Plus, and I'm sure Mary can attest to, the documents that we have retained, or the dollar amount that we've retained from those retained fees, has dropped by 43% in the last couple of years. It has really went down. According to the paperwork that we got from 2020, 2023, it dropped that 43%. And, that's because of your mortgage rates, and, the refis are slowing down. So again, that pool I think is a little more shallower than the optimistic numbers that they're showing on our documents that were given to us. But Russ County as a whole, I think this is definitely good for us.
And probably won't pass.
State's gonna go on.
Okay, then just wait and see then, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just wanted to show you, bring this to your guys' attention to let you know what's coming down the pipeline. We'll see what happens.
It's been approved then? Or not? Yeah.
No. It's a bill right now, but it hasn't been passed or anything, so
But it's
there's lots of,
talking about it for a long time.
they have, and right now currently there's, within more and more associations jumping on board with this, there's more and more senators that are co-sponsoring this bill. So, I mean, there's a good chance it could go through as it stands, but,
I know our organization asked us to reach out to our representatives in favor of it. That was one thing I was gonna bring up. So if we wanna reach out to our local folks and see if we can get them to, co-sponsor the bill, or if, again, you guys are in favor of it, which as I think everybody here is kind of attested to, it's a good thing for the county, no matter what.
That's something that supported resolution to the board would be. Yeah.
One is coming to finance on extending tax exempt bonding for municipalities. That's coming
Oh, I
to,
saw that.
yeah, so I have
Holy
that,
moly.
yeah,
You know,
that
that
would be huge.
the feds wanna,
Goes away.
the administration wants to eliminate tax exempt municipal bonds.
Oh, okay. Well, we could just sell the building now.
Yeah.
Give up, yeah.
We can all go home.
I mean, that's like a major tool.
So you can't sell float bonds and you can't raise your levy. Otherwise, have a nice day.
Yeah.
Would be happy to draft that, working with Mary,
Yeah, I would.
if you were okay with.
Grab your ankles.
I
Wow.
think it's worthwhile.
How soon is this, do you know, has to be done or?
I
don't remember.
I don't know if it actually said, but I can find that out.
I mean, if somebody wants to just make a motion that the committee endorses a resolution to the county board of support,
I'll make that motion.
and then staff can produce that and let us know come in for signatures. Oh,
Everybody else sign.
Mary.
Huh?
Those are for Mary.
yeah, Mary gets these back, right?
Yes, please.
Right.
Thank you.
Waive those finance committee before she.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
So we do have a motion and a second to approve recommending, or submitting a supportive resolution for the board's approval on the transfer fee legislation. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Right?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Carried. Good, good, good. I don't know how effective some of those supportive resolutions are sometimes.
Yeah, I think the last time we had that, like, all 72 counties supported it and yeah.
Need to shred it. Okay, continuing education, GIS tech. Python coding online course.
Yes, this is something that we had approached the committee on last year, and it was approved for myself, Nick, and Peyton to do the online course for Python scripting, which is going to help us with our ArcGIS programs that we use. Because they are doing away with the ArcGIS desktop, and we are going to be going to Pro, which it utilizes a lot of the Python scripting, which is Python scripting is basically code that details a process. So, you can actually program in specific things. This one is just for Peyton to kind of get caught back up on it. He has had some Python scripting when he was in school. So this is just going to help him kind of up his game a little bit and work with that. So it's an online class. I believe it's 8 weeks, if I remember correctly. You should have it in your packet, but that's about it. I don't think Nick and I are planning on taking this one. They do have one that's offered later in the fall again. Maybe when things slow down a little bit, we can maybe take another look at it. But as I said, it was approved last year for the three of us, but we just couldn't feasibly do it last year. So
$895. I thought.
$895 on here.
yeah, yep, $895.
See that.
No,
I didn't
no.
go far enough down the line here. So a motion would be in order either to approve, or if there is no motion, no approval.
I'll approve it, make a motion to.
Second,
I'll second.
this is all in the staff development, travel budget somewhere, right?
Yes, yeah, it is in the budget.
We have $1,000 stipend basically.
Yeah.
For training,
Okay.
for exactly this.
So it's does not affect the budget that way. Is there any further discussion or question? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Carried. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds like fun, actually. Shoreland ordinance review. This is the fun part.
Yeah. It's actually pretty cut and dried this month. So what you got in your packet was 3 pages of our current code and then 2 pages of the DNR model ordinance that dealt with the same section, shoreline setback area. So on page 1 of the Rusk County, our code lists accessory structures, road and side yard setbacks. The DNR model does not address these areas. So I'd be looking at, we would just be keeping our current language as we have it there. On page 2 of the Rusk County, I'd be looking to break down letter A in boathouse, and that's just because when we were reading through that, we just thought there was a few different points there that are all kind of together. So we would just be adding some, we wouldn't be changing the language, but maybe just, boathouses shall not be equipped with a potable water supply, fireplaces, patio doors, furniture. Keep going there, but like a separate sentence to break that down, because it all kind of, boathouses shall have a gable roof of 412 pitch or greater. All that's in one section. I'd probably make 2 or 3 out of that area. Not changing it, just making it a little bit easier to read.
Can't build a house with a docking station for their boats.
Yep. And also on page 2, under number 6, the stairways, walkways, piers. The DNR model also lists rail system, and we have had a couple of those where instead of using stairs, they're using a lift. So I want to add that rail system to that title. And under number 8 on page 3, we would add no side to number 8. The DNR model lists no side, open-sided, and screen structures. So we would just be adding that to the title to match what they have there. And then under letter B, the floor area of all structures in the shoreline setback area will not exceed 200 square feet. We need to add boathouses shall be excluded from that calculation. So that will match the DNR. So you can have a boathouse that doesn't count towards your 200 square feet of an opened or screen side. So you can have both of those. So that's some additional language that they've put into their model.
So that open side screen structure is not anything that's attached to the bridge.
It can be, like you could have a deck that could fall under there. There's a lot of things that go along with it as far as redoing your buffer zone, and the permit costs a lot more. So we don't see many of those in a year. But that's definitely an area.
The setback is less though, right, for that type of,
You can do that within the setback. But you have to be at least 35 feet back, and then it can't be more than 200 square feet. So, again, none of the language is gonna change there, except for we're saying that we don't count boathouses towards your 200 square feet within the setback. So if your house is already in the setback, you can't use this. If you already have a fish house or something already occupied in that setback, you can't add more unless it's a boathouse that you don't have to
So
count.
nobody in the county has
Your
a house that you can just drive your boat into and walk upstairs?
Maybe.
Oh, okay. But would that,
Could kind of have a tuck under.
So stairs to access the
I-
water, that's a separate issue. Those are permitted.
oh, okay.
The open and screen sides they called it the guard gazebo law when it got passed. So it's for people to put up decks, gazebos, screen house within the setback. But then you have to replant your buffer zone in order to get that permit. So people usually don't want to do
Got it.
that.
All right.
And then also the DNR model at the end of theirs on the second page, there was some fence and bridges that was on theirs that is not on ours. And that fence was part of a law that got passed. So we do need to add that. That's a requirement that get added. And then the bridge, I don't know why we just put it in there. Doesn't really anything that's going to affect the zoning part of things. People don't come to us for bridges, but it's in their model, so we'll include that in ours. So we'd be adding those two sections. And then we have height limits in our current language for boathouses and open-sided and screen structures. The DNR model doesn't address those. Those are areas that are left up to the county to regulate. And I did check with them and we are fine because we have a 18-inch, shall not exceed 18 inches, the foundation or the base of the structure for the opened or screened. And above natural grade, and the wall height shall not exceed 10 feet. And the DNR said that language is fine and acceptable, and that's our current language. So that's really all I have. We just took this one section. We didn't have a lot of time this month to go through things, so we found the section with some changes, but kind of minimal, and basically adding a couple things to make it more clear, and then also including the fence law that got passed. That's one of the reasons they're making everybody redo their ordinance to make sure we all have that in there.
Is the fencing, between property owners, there's no setback for that, is there?
It cannot. The fence cannot go to the water. That is.
Have to meet the 75-foot.
That's me, 75, yeah. That was one we ran into last summer,
did that.
big time. Yeah. And when the DNR was questioned, they said, yeah. So the fence language, I'll just read it. A fence along a roadway that meets all of the following requirements would be exempt from the setback. It is not taller than 15 feet, is located not less than 2 feet landward of the ordinary high water mark, is located entirely outside of a highway right-of-way, is located not less than 10 feet from the edge of the roadway and not more than 40 feet from the edge of the roadway or highway right-of-way, whichever is greater, is generally perpendicular to the shoreline. I do not understand what they're trying to approve here, but it's
No, neither.
something like right out by the road where you can put a fence. I don't know that we would have many places where
40?
you can't be more than 40 feet from the road, but you can be within the setback. So I don't know how many properties.
Fences are just along the property lines going the other direction, between owners,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we've seen it.
So it's one of those things when we've talked about at conference, everybody's like, what are they trying to do here? And I'm sure it was one person called their legislator and wanted something done, and then this law got wrote. That approved what they were doing. So
One person on Lake Geneva.
probably that had a spot that was this close to the highway, but within the setback, and they wanted to put up a fence.
Yep. Gave a lot of money to their representative.
Most likely. So, but we'll have to add that in and figure out
So strange that shit like that.
if we ever have something come up, then we'll have to refer back and.
Uh-huh.
But I don't see us having that come up. So,
Promise when I win the lottery, I won't,
you won't do
I
that?
won't do that.
Just do the open and screen sided. It's.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, that's all. That was our review for this month.
How much more of this do we, before we?
The big part is the DNR model doesn't have any permitted or conditional uses or anything about enforcement. So all of that in our code will kind of stay. So we'll have to plug that in. Plug in what we need of theirs into ours, because otherwise I was gonna have to rewrite and reformat half of our code. So I figured out that wasn't gonna work because we had pages of stuff that they give you the outline, you have to fill in the blanks. So
So once this is all done, then it gets submitted to the state and they
Goes to the-
gotta say,
yeah, it goes to the
Okay.
DNR and they'll review it to make sure we're meeting all their standards, and then they would send it back and then it would go to public hearing. But it goes to them first.
Are you finding the new editions more restrictive than our present code or no?
Part of the problem was the old code told the counties what they couldn't do. Because it was written by legislatures, not in code language. So then the legislature had a couple DNR people spend time to write this in code language. So one thing I like about what they're doing is they're citing the state stats that go with everything. So when you need to check up on something, you can go to the right stats. So I really like how they did that. But it's not so much saying counties can't do all these things, which is how that kind of that first NR 115 came out with a lot of telling us what we couldn't do rather than setting the regulations, so. Yeah, they paid 2 people for about a year to come up with their model.
I think the biggest thing is that, you know, we need to be able to communicate is that it really isn't changing that much.
Right.
It's just making our ordinances have language that's more consistent with the statute. And, you know, otherwise if you get people riled up thinking that there's something in here that, you know, that's gonna be new and restrictive, then we're gonna have
100 people show up.
a problem, yeah. I think maybe
And we've all been through that before.
well, yeah, we have.
We have.
Oh, yes.
The 2 of us have. We don't want to
We
do
still have a
that.
few pejorative nicknames as a result of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think maybe people have sort of gotten used to the way it is, and, you know, actually the changes that the state put in last time really changed the philosophy of our zoning ordinances, I think. So, you know,
And
now the ordinances are sort of like, we allow you to do whatever you want to do with your own land, as long as it doesn't interfere with what somebody else is doing with their land. And then, you know, gives you tools to use to resolve issues that, you know, so kind of like the conditional use permit.
And we have at least 2 for next month if a third doesn't come in, so we call public hearings.
They had really restricted things like, you know, increasing the footprint of a non-conforming
Oh, yeah, that's,
structure, even if it was, or increasing it in the direction of the, you know,
lateral expansion.
Yeah,
allowed,
so,
Yeah.
so a lot of heartbeat or heartburn about all of that, so. So it looks like we're down to deciding whether we like the date for the next meeting. The 13th of May. There's no objection. We'll leave it at that. And if there's no further objection or nothing else being brought up, we are adjourned. Yeah. What's up?